Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. So, the Vancouver Canucks. Usually around this time, I'm making a video that's completely polar opposite of what is happening with Vancouver right now. I'm usually making a video about how they've had such a rough start to the season. Well, it's the complete opposite because they're third in the NHL. So it's definitely not about how they're having a bad start to the year. If you have the expectation of, they should be the best team in the NHL, then I guess, yeah, it's a bad start. But regardless, Vancouver has looked good. Like, they have looked so good. And yes, I understand that it's the Pacific Division, and I've literally made like videos on 6 of the 8 teams in the Pacific already. But Vancouver is just so good. And they've used the division absolutely falling apart. Like, they've used Edmonton, Seattle, San Jose, and Calgary, them falling apart to their complete advantage. And hey, I'm not going to discredit them for it at all. They took advantage of what's happening, and they're playing really well. They're 9-2-1 for 19 points, and they're third in the NHL. They all together just look so like different than last year. Like last year, and it's been a trend every year. And like in my season preview, I doubted Vancouver, like I usually do. It's kind of a trend. I don't like doing it, but I do it because I just felt like, well, this team didn't make a lot of changes, and I was like, well, it's probably going to be the same outcome this year. They're going to suck at the beginning of the year and then be really good towards the end of the year. No, that hasn't been the case. Either that it's flipped the other way around, which we're in for a massive disaster class if that's the case. But definitely it's not that. They've played really well through this stretch of games, and there was so much questions too. Like heading into this season, like Quinn Hughes named captain. How is he going to develop the leadership? Elias Pettersson on an expiring contract, which, by the way, he is leading the team right now in points, which plays a factor. But I do want to say that those rumors of him leaving, they're definitely not loud right now. They might be later on in the season. It's very possible that they could collapse this. I'm not saying they will, but any team could collapse. I hope they don't for the sake of this team. I've really enjoyed watching the games they've played. They just look so like different than last year, and I think a lot of it too is just goaltending and just overall chemistry. Like the whole team seems to be clicking right now. Now, I'm going to go over positive and negatives throughout this video. I'm going to try and be mostly positive and leave the negatives for the end because even though I do like the way this team's playing, there are a few concerns that I have when it comes to the longer term. Like, let's say we get into the second half of the season and the schedule maybe starts getting a little bit more difficult. That might be where we see them fall a little bit. But obviously, we're gonna give them the credit that they deserve right now because they are playing well. They're 5-0-1 at home. They haven't lost their regulation at home yet. The only loss was arguably a controversial loss. A lot of people didn't like the way Vancouver lost to the Rangers in overtime when they were at home. So if you take that out of the equation, they're 6-0. I mean, hey, like I'd say that's pretty good. They've scored 54 goals. Which is awesome. The offense has been there from all sides, not even just the offense. The defense has been scoring well too. And then 24 goals allowed. Honestly, I think those numbers were flipped last year. Like at this time last year, it was 24 goals scored and 54 allowed. I feel like that was probably maybe not that bad, but that was probably what it was like because last year just the goaltending and the defense was just so horrid last year, and that's why they started off like 2-9-1. Like it's funny because like they're having a completely different season than last year. Like this time last year they were probably like 2-9-1. 2-9-1. And now they're 9-2-1. So it's amazing to see them playing this way. And Canucks fans deserve it after all the years they went through where they just could not make the playoffs, and they'd start out the same way every year and then end the same way every year. It's just insane how it's been, but it definitely looks like it's a different season from that. Your scores, you got Elias Pettersson in first with 12 games played, 6 goals, 15 assists, 21 points. Undeniable. He's probably going to have himself a career year, which is not surprising considering the fact that he has a big contract coming up. But I do think that even though that contract is going to cost Vancouver a lot of money and we're probably going to have to see some players get moved out, I definitely do think that the season they're having right now may retract Elias Pettersson, may move his salary down a little bit, but of course, there's still a lot of time in the season, and things could get solved before then. But obviously, we'll find out there with Pettersson. Next up, then, is Quinn Hughes. I was a little bit optimistic when he became the captain. I didn't hate it. I thought it was a good decision. But I was still a little bit optimistic for him. But he's been great. I feel like every time I watch him, he has like a 4.9. Like it's unreal. 5 games played, or 5 goals, 15 assists. For 20 points in 12 games played. Seems to just be racking up assists there on the blue line, giving the puck to guys like Pettersson, Miller, Besser, all of them. They all look great right now. Then you got JT Miller, third in scoring. There was a lot of controversy last year with him, that he wasn't a good locker room guy. It seems like with Quinn Hughes being named the captain, that problem has de-escalated, and Rick Tocchet also plays a big role in that as well. But 12 games played for Miller, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points. He's looking great out there, scoring, getting the assists. He's doing all he needs to do. Brock Besser. This guy, at this time last year, I don't even think he had a goal. It was such a rough season last year for Besser that I was so weirdly cautiously optimistic heading into this year. And obviously every year there was trade rumors of whether or not Vancouver's going to deal him. Thank God they didn't, because he's been pretty good. 12 games played, 10 goals, 5 assists, 15 points. He's looked awesome on that forward court for Vancouver. And then Filip Hronek. I mean, hey, you don't need to score, just keep passing the puck. 12 games played, 13 assists. Has no goals so far. It'd be nice to see him score a goal, but, hey, the goals don't happen without you. 13 of those 54 goals wouldn't have happened if it weren't for Hronek. So give all the props to him. But, yeah, overall, the offense looks awesome right now. The defense looks great. As you can tell, you got two guys in your top 5 from your defense. I believe they are in the same pairing, but we'll ignore that. Other guys that I think have looked solid, but maybe... Kuzmenko is a little bit kind of concerning. It's a little slower start than it was last year for him, which isn't surprising. Some players go through that sophomore slump, which is fine. Kuzmenko, he's seemed to pick it up a little bit with 6 points in, I believe, those 12 games. But obviously, the Canucks probably do want to see more out of him, but it's okay. It's okay. Ilya Mikheyev, he did get hurt a little bit there, but he still played solid in the games he's played. And then Sam Lafferty, too, looks solid as a good second line, or as a good depth player that they acquired. I think either right before the season started or right in the middle of the season. It was either one of those areas. But yeah, just overall, those guys look great. The bottom 6 looks great. The secondary scoring's been good enough. It hasn't been awesome, but it's been good enough for Vancouver to be a really solid roster right now. And then Thatcher Demko. Massive credit to him. I always forget about Demko. I always underrate Demko. I forgot about him in the top 10 goalie list. I forget about him in pretty much everything. And it's unfortunate, but he's definitely not going to be forgotten this year. Demko's 9 games played, 7-2, 1.61 goals against average, and a .948 save percentage. Great numbers there for Demko. He's been a big part of why Vancouver's been all that. And now I'm going to list some reasons that have me a little bit concerned. And Vancouver Canucks fans, you might want to turn off the video. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. There are a few concerns that I have with this team currently. I don't like the 5v5 numbers. They're a little bit concerning in my end. I'm not trying to let it affect me too much because, hey, a team that's dangerous on the power play or on the PK as well definitely is a team you don't want to face. But yeah, the 5v5 numbers have been a tad bit concerning, but it's okay at this stage, but it needs to improve, obviously. The other thing is the schedule. This is kind of unavoidable for Vancouver. I say this with every team that has an easy-ass schedule. It's kind of unavoidable for you to not have an easy schedule, especially since Vancouver's in probably the worst division. In the worst division I've seen in such a long time. You have half the division is absolutely terrible, and the other half is pretty good. So it's really not their fault because there's a 1 in 4 chance they're playing a really bad hockey team in their division. So definitely that plays a role. But against the good teams, they've played pretty solid against them though. I will say that. The shutout win against Dallas was great. Held a very high-scoring offensive team to literally no goals, which I'd say is a pretty good accomplishment. But yeah, just overall, those are really my only 2 concerns. And, again, their upcoming schedule isn't really that much difficult either. They do have some tough games in there here and there, but it's overall a very easy schedule, and it's not through any fault of their own. It's just the division they're in. You have your upcoming games. You got Ottawa first, so they're going on a little Canadian road trip here. You got Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, so they're going through that stretch of Canada. I think they come back home against the Islanders. Then they play Calgary. Then they play Seattle. Then they play San Jose. Then they throw out a little bit of a difficult one. They got Colorado right in the middle of it. And then you got Seattle again. And then you got San Jose again. So just the second half of November is very easy for them. And I'm going to say right now, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this team's still third in the NHL by the end of November. They have a really easy schedule coming up. The only difficult teams that I see on that list are like Toronto and Colorado. The rest they should be able to handle. But yeah, overall, I like the direction where they're going. I really hope they keep going this way. Yes, I do have concerns, but I just can't be positive all the time, can I? It is what it is. But yeah, Vancouver playing very well. Hopefully this continues. Let me know your thoughts down below on the Canucks. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button down below. I really appreciate it. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.